So today in the garden, we're going to be taking a look at 10 of the absolute best perennials that I think every garden should have. Now, of course, literally speaking, I can't speak for everyone. You might have an entirely shady garden, so some of these might not work, or perhaps they just aren't your style. But I wanted to go over some of the absolute best that I would recommend to everyone. These are the perennials I just can't stop talking about, and are some of my absolute favorites in the garden and have been for a long time. And I'm going to share exactly why that is. By the way, I'm trying to hit 3,000 subscribers, so if you like gardening content, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you here. Let's start off with one of my absolute favorite tall perennials, which is known as Verbena Bonariensis. It has these very beautiful, dainty little purple flowers held above these really tall stems. If you're looking for a perennial that loves full sun, is very airy, so it can weave in and out of other plants, and is incredibly tall, then you definitely want yourself some Verbena Bonariensis. If you take a look in my back border, you can see it covering the back. It's so tall, and I just love how it works in contrast with all the other different plants. I'm a really big fan personally of purple perennials. I think they're so lovely, so you're probably going to see more on this list. But yeah, it's one that I absolutely adore. I can't imagine my garden without it. Another great thing about Verbena Bonariensis as well is that it is a very prolific self-seeder, which of course means that you will get tons and tons of free plants just from the one. In fact, this thing is so prolific that a lot of people actually don't like that about it, because this will just self-seed anywhere and everywhere. It has no qualms about that whatsoever. So that is something to keep in mind about this particular plant, but generally speaking, I think it's worth it. Who doesn't like free plants? You know, it's fantastic. It saves you a lot of money. And this isn't the type of plant you just want one of in your garden. Last year, I only had the one, which I think is still hidden in this border somewhere. Or I started off with one anyways. And yeah, it really didn't look right. I think they're much better in big groups or just weaving in and out of other plants in a big border. You definitely need a decent amount of room for them. And of course, given they get very tall, you do want them at the back of a border. I do actually have this one in the middle, but as you can see, it's kind of weaving in and out of other plants. So you can put it in the middle to be fair, but if you've got a big cluster, then maybe consider that. Next, of course, we have hardy geraniums. Now this specific one is Geranium Rosanne, which is probably my favorite, I would say. It's an absolute gem. This has won many awards, I believe, because it's such an incredible plant. Now here's one that will actually tolerate a little bit of shade, although it may not flower as prolifically as this one has, but I just love them so much. If you're looking for a ground cover plant that is very hardy, look no further. Now, a lot of people get geraniums confused with the pelargoniums that you get in little pots, and you know, you sort of use them as annual bedding. I personally really do not like those. I think if you're going to choose a geranium, pick a hardy one. Geranium Rosanne, Geranium Dreamland, there are so many different others. There's Wargrave Pink, there's just too many to list in this video, but those are some of my absolute favorites. Yeah, I really recommend getting yourself a beautiful hardy geranium. You can't go wrong with it. If you need to cover a big space on the ground, you don't want to see dirt anymore, get yourself a hardy geranium, because it will handle the task very nicely without any complaints. So that's definitely one to have. Next, we have Echinacea. Echinacea is a full sun loving plant. It will not tolerate things like shade. It really needs full sun and sort of more sandy soil to thrive. So if you've got clay soil, this probably won't do too well. This is a very drought tolerant plant, and again, it looks amazing in groups. I have quite a few of them in and out of the garden at the moment. Now, the hardiest variety is this particular one called Echinacea Magnus, which is the traditional pinky purple colored one. There are others. There are ones that are like red and yellow and all kinds of different ones. But from my personal experience, none of them are as hardy as Magnus. It might depend on your climate. If you live somewhere that's very warm, I know I have a lot of US viewers, so hello to you, then you know, you can maybe use those other colors. But I tend to find in the UK and colder varieties in Europe, this Magnus, the sort of pinky purple traditional one, is by far the hardiest, so definitely get yourself that one. There is another variety which I really love, which is called Echinacea White Swan. You can see I've got it paired in here with these, and yeah, I absolutely adore it. It is one of my favorite plants of all time. It's just so pretty. I love how just I don't really know how to describe it. It really stands out, not in an obnoxious way whatsoever. It just looks great. So yeah, Echinacea Magnus, definitely one to have in your garden, as well as Echinacea White Swan. Both fantastic varieties. I can't recommend them enough. Also, these guys will not get like too tall or anything like that. I mean, as you can see, they're decent amongst some of the other plants, but they're not anything crazy, so you don't have to worry about that. But definitely full sun for these, and they will tolerate a drought as well. Right near them in other big clusters is my Echinops, which is these blue globe thistles. Again, I recommend these so much, especially planted in big groups. These go super well with the Echinacea that I just mentioned. They are a very hardy plant. Being a thistle, you'd think that, you know, the insects might keep away from them, but no, they love them so much. I believe birds also really like them too in the winter time once the seed heads have come up. Yeah, no, these are absolutely beloved by pollinators. You'd be surprised. Looking at them, I never would have assumed they'd be so popular, but they're one of the pollinators' favorites in my entire garden. So yeah, these are prolific at flowering. They just look different. Again, they do need full sun, and they basically do sort of prefer drier conditions, sandier conditions. So they're just absolutely amazing. I think they're wonderful. I really do. I just love how unique they are compared to everything else. You know, they're not like a traditional flower, if you could even think of what a traditional flower is. You know, I picture something like that Echinacea when I think of a flower, you know, but Echinops is so different, and I just think it's magnificent. So definitely one to have for the garden. Another one of my all-time favorites for ground cover is Nepeta. This one is Nepeta's Walker's Low, and it has a very lovely silvery type foliage. It's got these beautiful purple flowers, and it'll spill out nicely over your pathways. This is what I would call a cottage garden classic. Now, I've cut these one back, but they can grow really wild, so definitely keep that in mind. But yeah, they're great at filling a space. They're very hardy. They will tolerate wetter conditions. A lot of people use these as an alternative to lavender. So I know I've mentioned a lot of plants in this video that prefer dry conditions. Here's one that will tolerate wet conditions. You know, maybe not too crazy, but it will still tolerate it a lot more than lavender, which, like I said, a lot of people substitute this for, as it looks pretty different. So yeah, really wonderful. I definitely recommend Nepeta so much. It's a great space filler in the garden, one of my absolute favorites. For number 6, how about some lovely Phlox? Now this one is called Phlox Nicky, and it has these such gorgeous flowers. I mean, look at the vibrant colors on these. Phlox is one of those plants that if you cut back early on in the summer, it'll get a much stronger form and come back with tons and tons of flowers. It'll be a little bit shorter, but it's worth it, trust me, because honestly, these guys require so much staking. So yeah, I really love Phlox. This is Phlox Nicky, like I said. I've also got Phlox Blue Paradise back here, and just look at that color. So unique and so special, which is amazing to see. You can get other types of Phlox as well. You can get the ones that are like hardy ground cover, and they've got sort of more spiky looking foliage. So there's lots of different ones that you can try out, but I definitely recommend these particular types. I think they're the paniculata types. I might be wrong on that, but they're definitely something similar to that. And yeah, they're really wonderful. Definitely one of my absolute favorites in the garden. So get yourself some Phlox. Another sun-loving perennial is Rudbeckia. This one is Rudbeckia Demii, lots of different pronunciations. But yeah, the beautiful black-eyed Susan, I believe it's traditionally called, is so lovely. I know a lot of people don't like yellow perennials, but how could you not have a Rudbeckia in your garden? This is essential. I love how it looks with the purple of the Verbena as well, weaving in and out. I think that's so nice. Here's a slightly smaller one, which kind of self-seeded, I think. So this is what they might look like one year, and then the next, they don't get too tall. They're just kind of down there. I do have a really, really tall variety, which is called Rudbeckia Herbston. So if you want a much, much taller Rudbeckia, look no further than this guy, because it's crazy. But yeah, I love Demi. I think it's the absolute best one. Definitely one of my favorite perennials. There's another type as well, which is called Goldsturm, which has slightly darker foliage and bigger leaves. I'm a bit iffy on this one. I don't know. I think the flowers are definitely a lot bigger than Demi, but the actual form of it is less attractive. So, you know, it's debatable whichever one you might prefer, but I just want to provide a few different options. But yeah, I absolutely love Rudbeckia. Again, a sun-loving plant. Most sort of yellow-looking ones like this really are sun-loving. So yeah, you will need those conditions for it. A lot of people say this one doesn't like to get too wet. However, mine are always constantly looking really rough when it gets dry. So I don't know if that's just a me problem or what. But yeah, so I don't want to comment on the aspects in that regard because, yeah, like I said, mine is always looking really, really dry. So it's a tough one, but yeah, I love it. Definitely recommend having some Rudbeckia in your garden. You've also got to have some salvias. This one is called Salvia caradonna. It's not looking as amazing as it could right now because it's a bit late on in the season, but I still had to include it even if it's not looking its best. They're really, really great. They're hardy plants. There are so many different types of salvia out there. For example, there is this Salvia blue spire, also known as Perovskia blue spire. So that's a different type of one you could have. But this one, Salvia caradonna, is one I highly recommend. It loves dry conditions, fantastic. There are even more that I can show you as well. There's this one with white flowers, which is called Salvia Schneehugel. These can be sort of cut back in the middle of summer and they'll get another flowering, which is what I've done. But now they're kind of coming to an end. They're still getting new flowers, but for some reason this year they just haven't really done that great. I don't know why, but yeah, I still love them. I think they're definitely worth having in your garden. Again, very sunny conditions is what they want, but it's worth trying to find that for them because they are fantastic. How about some Erigeron? Again, if you're looking for a plant that will fill in those gaps in the ground, this is perfect ground cover. This one will also grow in cracks in the ground too, so it's really great for that sort of usage. It looks fantastic in a pot, for example. Let me take you over to where I've got one in a pot. I just really love this look. I love how it spills out of there. I think it's just a stunner. So yeah, definitely another one I recommend for ground cover. A really fantastic must-have plant in your garden. There are so many that I could have chose for the final one on this list. I'm missing out on so many that I absolutely love, but I'm sticking to 10 for now. For my final one, I'm going to go with Achillea, also known as Yarrow. So this one is known as Achillea Cloth of Gold. It's a really tall yellow Achillea, which just looks stunning in my opinion. It's so, so lovely. But there are so many different color varieties. We've got a sort of lighter yellow one over here. In that border, I've got sort of a pink one. You can get red ones, like this one hiding behind the archway. You can get all kinds of different colors. So Achillea is so versatile. Again, it prefers drier conditions and stuff like that. It also prefers full sun. It's just a wonderful plant. It's also really good for cut flowers as well, which I know a lot of people like. So Achillea is definitely another one that I would recommend that you should have in your garden. So yes, those are some of my favorites. There are so many other perennial flowers and plants that I could list that, you know, I would recommend, but I'm sticking to these for now. Either way, I really hope you enjoyed this little look at my cottage garden and some of my most recommended plants of all time. I'm going to have other videos soon on different types of plants, and I've already got a lot of videos on many other types of plants for different types of gardens. So be sure to check those out, and I will catch you in the next video.